What's up everyone? This is John from Running Warehouse.
And I'm Liz from Running Warehouse.
And today we're going to be giving you a comparison on two new Cloudmonsters that have escaped the lab from On. We've got the Cloudmonster 2 and the Cloudmonster Hyper. And we're going to give you the information you need to determine which one is going to be best for you. We'll go through the specs and then we'll go through our experience with each shoe. So Liz, start us off with Cloudmonster 2.
So the Cloudmonster 2 is the update to the original Cloudmonster, and it has some really exciting updates. It got a few millimeters extra stack height, going up to 37 millimeters in the heel with a 6 millimeter drop. And it also gets a little bit softer insert of foam through the forefoot for just a softer ride overall. So it's just making the shoe a little bit softer, a little bit more protective than the original.
Okay, and with the Cloudmonster Hyper, we've got actually a little bit more stack. I'm measuring it at about 40 millimeters in the heel and 6 millimeter drop, so that gives 34 millimeters in the forefoot. It's coming in at about 9.3 ounces, which is over an ounce lighter than the Cloudmonster 2. It does not have a speed board in the midsole, but what it does have is the addition of P-backs foam in the forefoot, which extends from the midfoot through the forefoot. It's gonna give you a softer, more responsive ride. You've got a nice engineered woven material in the upper. So, Liz, we've got the specs of these two shoes. Let's get into how it feels on foot. Why don't you tell us how the fit feels for the Cloudmonster 2?
So the On Cloudmonster 2 gets a few little upper updates that do give it a bit different fit. I would say the fit's a little bit looser throughout, and this eyelet system definitely doesn't give quite the same snugness through the midfoot as the previous version. But that said, it still has On classic fit. It's comfortable, and I had no issues even despite the little bit looser feel throughout the shoe.
So in terms of fit for me on both of these shoes, they both fit actually quite large. I would say the Cloudmonster 2, I would go down probably a full size, and the Cloudmonster Hyper was okay at my size 11. I may want to go down to a 10.5. But in terms of its comfort, I thought they were both pretty comfortable. I thought the Cloudmonster Hyper is a little bit more breathable and more lightweight, so I enjoyed that. But I did appreciate the structure of the Cloudmonster 2 as well. All right, well, let's get into the best part of the shoes where the magic happens, and that's in the midsole. So I'll start with the Cloudmonster Hyper. When I first put on the shoe, it was just really nice, soft, plush cushioning. That was a really welcome experience. I thought the P-backs addition was amazing. On, if you're listening to this, consider maybe extending the P-backs even more. I feel like you can never have too much P-backs in your midsole, but it was nice to get that responsiveness and impact dampening that the P-backs offered. So I really did enjoy the Cloudmonster Hyper's midsole for that protection and comfort for my daily miles. How about you, Liz, for the Cloudmonster 2?
So the Cloudmonster 2 really maintains a similar feel to the previous version, but just with that little bit of extra protection. So I think On did a really great job of keeping this shoe with a similar ride that fans of the previous model are going to like, but making that update for a little bit extra cushioning, making it just more versatile for longer miles, or even more versatile for those daily runs where you want a little bit more comfort. With the Hyper, that P-backs foam in the forefoot is definitely really soft. It definitely has a very different feel than other Ons that I've experienced, where it's very impact dampening, but without being sluggish feeling. It definitely still feels responsive, but definitely a plusher ride that doesn't have the same type of compressive spring that you get with the Cloudmonster 2.
Yeah, and one thing I think that's worth talking about for the midsole is the speed board in the Cloudmonster 2 and the absence of the speed board in the Cloudmonster Hyper. But despite the absence of that speed board, I did find the Hyper to be very stable still. Even though I really love the speed board in the Cloudmonster 2, I thought that was my favorite feature of that shoe because of that stability it offered, as well as the propulsion when I wanted to pick up the pace. But the Cloudmonster Hyper was plenty stable, and if I needed to pick up the pace, well, that's what the P-backs was for.
Absolutely. I think the speed board's really what gives the Cloudmonster 2 that spring, whereas with the Cloudmonster Hyper, it still feels responsive and maybe even feels a little smoother in a softer way versus really kind of propelling you forward with a compressive spring that the Cloudmonster 2 has.
All right, let's get into the durability of the outsole here. So Liz, I know you got quite a few miles in both of these shoes. I was able to get a rain run in the Cloudmonster Hyper, and I was really happy with the traction that this shoe delivered. When you're talking about a premium daily trainer, you want shoes that are going to be able to eat up a ton of miles. How did you feel about the durability of these two outsoles?
I was actually really impressed with the durability. I've spent a lot of time going from pavement to fire road, really in both of these shoes, and I see almost no sign of wear. And in terms of traction, I had no problem, so can't complain there. I think they are gonna last a long time in terms of outsole durability, and they get the job done.
Awesome. Well, let's talk about the best use case of these shoes. Who's gonna enjoy running in the Cloudmonster Hyper and Cloudmonster 2? So they are both gonna be your elevated premium daily trainers that's gonna have that versatility to do a wide variety of workouts. Maybe not the top choice for speed, maybe not the top choice for recovery, but it can get the job done. I would say the Cloudmonster Hyper is probably going to cater to that dedicated runner who is constantly in marathon training and needs to keep their legs fresh for the next workout. That P-backs and softer midsole is really going to pay dividends over a longer course, whereas I think the Cloudmonster 2 might cater towards maybe the runner who gets out 4 to 5 times a week and just likes to have that nice cushioning, but maybe more of a firmer feel and get that ground feel when you want to maybe pick up the pace. But what do you think about that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that Cloudmonster Hyper's P-backs foam definitely gives that little bit more impact dampening feel that is going to be appreciated for longer mileage, whereas the Cloudmonster 2, it still has that impact protection because of the amount of cushioning that it has, but it's going to maybe feel better at slightly faster paces, or for someone who wants that little bit firmer, more stable feeling ride and something that still has a lot of cushioning underfoot.
Yeah, so let's talk about which one we would choose. If you can't tell by now, I would go with the Cloudmonster Hyper over the Cloudmonster 2. We have the privilege of trying on a lot of new shoes that come in, and so when I'm putting on a shoe for the first time, I really want to see if it has a wow factor, something that stands out. And unfortunately, I couldn't say that anything about the Cloudmonster 2 really stood out to me in any big way, especially at a $180 price point. But when I put on the Cloudmonster Hyper, that midsole feel is very premium, and you're getting a really nice, soft, responsive ride that I really enjoyed, whether it was my easier daily efforts or longer weekend runs. I really enjoyed the comfort and protection offered by the Cloudmonster Hyper. So for my money, I do think that the more expensive price point is worth that upgrade because of what you're getting.
Yeah, and I think I would actually go with the Cloudmonster 2. I really think that this is a unique shoe in terms of that cushioned yet springy ride, and it's just really fun. And so I think while I might choose the Cloudmonster Hyper for longer runs, I think for those daily miles, those 3 to 6 mile runs, the Cloudmonster 2 is gonna be my top choice.
Fair points. So even though we may disagree on which Cloudmonster is our favorite, I think we could definitely agree that the Cloudmonster, whether it's the Hyper or the 2, is going to be a shoe that runners out there are going to really appreciate. Runners who are looking for a premium experience, you can get that either in the Cloudmonster 2, or if you really want to supercharge it and have that P-backs insert, then the Cloudmonster Hyper is an excellent choice. If you're looking to try either of these shoes for yourself, you can find them here at Running Warehouse.